You're listening to Al Pastor, the show that helps you love God, love your neighbor, and eat more tacos. I'm your host, Pastor Brian. Welcome to the show. Well, hello. I want to welcome you to today's podcast, which incidentally is a video cast as well. Thank you for being patient with me. I've been really trying to get all the details ironed out as far as being able to do both, not only just an audio version, but also video. That way, folks, if they're interested, they can view my screen, they can see the things I'm interacting with, I can do presentations. Ultimately, I'd like to be able to put some content on YouTube. And you might be asking, well, how can I watch the video? Well, if you use Spotify as your the way that you consume podcasts, this is available on video. So please check it out. I would love your feedback as far as some of the visuals are concerned. I'm not concerned with don't tell me how I look unless it's good, of course, right? And but I'm just curious because, man, I've been trying to iron out everything, like the looks, the lighting. There's a lot that goes into this. But anyway, let's get right into the podcast and what we are reading today. What our reading covers. I'm recording this on a Sunday in case if you noticed. If you're watching, yes, I'm wearing the same clothes because it is Sunday. So I ran home, grabbed some lunch, and been at the church most of the afternoon trying to get this dialed in. But our reading, which is going to be for today, Monday, is Genesis 31, verses 30 through 55. So I'm just going to go over a couple of things, and then we'll wrap it up because I'm gonna see how this workflow goes with it. So let me go ahead and share my screen with everybody that is watching. So I'm going to pull up my New King James, and we want to go down to verse 30, don't we? All right. So number one, my first suggestion is if, because we haven't read since Friday, hopefully you've been studying and reading out, but make sure you get your mind and your heart back into the text. Jacob's fleeing from Laban. Laban's in hot pursuit. Laban finally catches up with Jacob, and now we're reading part of the conversation that he has with her. So let's start in verse number 30. He says, "And now you have surely gone because you greatly long for your father's house." But here's his question now. But why did you steal my gods? Why did you steal my gods? If you're watching, you can see I want to encourage you to underline that phrase, my gods, okay? I have it underlined. Why is this important? Because we see how important it was to Laban, but we also notice the language. If you remember previously, just a few verses prior, it says that Rachel stole the household idols. The word for that in Hebrew is teraphim. This word is Elohim. Big difference. Big difference. So we got to ask the question, are they the same? Are they different? Are they the same for Rachel, or are they different? We'll talk about that. So we have this whole issue and this, I guess we would call it like conundrum, right, with Rachel. First of all, we want to see if we can determine or interpret, would be a better word, what was Rachel's motivation for doing this? Well, we can see how precious this idol or household god was to Laban. So perhaps she was trying to get back to at her father spitefully and saying, you know what, I'm going to get you because of what you did to me. She's hurt. Hurt people, don't they? That's a big one. Hurt people. That could be part of it. What else could it be? Well, some have speculated, postulated, interpreted. Perhaps this household idol had some value to it. Maybe it was blinged out. Maybe there were some jewels on it. Maybe there was some gold in it. That could be it as well. And maybe, she kind of wasn't able to get her portion of the inheritance, or her dad spent her inheritance, or whatever the case may be. And maybe this could be her way of saying, you know what, I want to ensure some security for my children. That could be it. Or Perhaps she grew up with this household idol. Maybe she has some religious attachment to it. I'm curious, what do you think it is? Give it some thought. Give it some study. I personally think it's a combination of all three. I think that she had some legitimate connections spiritually to this thing. We know that her father Nahor, her father Laban, son of Nahor, son of Terah. The Bible tells us later that they worshipped other gods, so this was something that was common for Rachel. We need to understand that in ancient Near Eastern context, the worship of other gods was common. I mean, this is what we would call polytheism, right? Polytheism is ascribing honor or worship to a number of gods. But God demands exclusivity. He says, "You shall have no other gods before me." That's what God said. Now, regardless of Rachel's motivation, and again, I think that probably all three are in play here, what we see is just an act of God's graciousness towards her. Let's read on just a little bit. Jacob answered Laban, this is verse 31, by the way, "Because I was afraid." So why did you leave? He's not answering the question yet about the gods, but he says, "Because I was afraid, for I said, perhaps you would take your daughters from me by force." Now he's going to address the issue of the god, or gods, plural, meaning, was there more than one? "With whomever you find your gods, do not let him live. In the presence of our brother, and identify what I have of yours and take it with you." And then we have a little side note in verse number 32 that I think is worthy. "For Jacob did not know that Rachel had stolen them." Then we're going to see in verse 33 that he goes into Jacob's tent, he goes into Leah's tent, into the two maids' tent, and he did not find them. Let's pause for a second. Think about the process, and I want you to think about what's going through Rachel's mind. Jacob has said, "Whoever you find will die." He's put her in a pretty tough predicament, hasn't he? I mean, what can she do? And so imagine this encampment. Here's your dad. He's going from tent 1, tent 2. He goes to Jacob's, to Rachel's, to the maidservants. You know he's coming to your tent. So what do you do? Do you own up to it? Do you fess up to it? What would you do? That's the question. What would you do? Let's find out what Rachel does, which is really, really incredible. Verse 34 says, "Now Rachel had taken the household idols. She put them in the camel's saddle, and she sat on them. And Laban searched all about the tent, but did not find them. And she said to her father, 'Let it not displease my lord that I cannot rise before you, for the manner of woman is with me.' And he searched, but he did not find the household gods." Wow. It's a little bit, I just want to brace you. This is almost comical, but I love the picture that it paints. Regardless of what her motivation was, the message is the same. Rachel, you're about to go into a land where I demand exclusive worship, and you can't come in with any attachments. These things become unclean. They're unclean in my sight. I'm going to read you two portions of commentary, and I think that these will help us just a little bit. The first one comes from the Bible Knowledge Commentary. So those of you that have it, I encourage you to highlight it. This is the commentary on this for verse number 34 and 35. It says, "She put the idols in her camel's saddle, and she sat on the saddle in her tent. Apparently, Laban never dreamed that a woman would dare take a chance to contaminate the idols. But what a blow this was to the teraphim, because they became, quote unquote, nothing gods. For a woman who claimed to be unclean sat on them. Wow, that's incredible. Here's one more. It's from Victor Hamilton, the New International Commentary on the Old Testament. He says, with a little bit of respect, Rachel says, let not my Lord be provoked that I cannot rise in your presence. Rachel manages to fool her father. Her menstrual period has sapped her strength, and therefore she cannot even rise to greet her father. Again, we may imagine the ancient Hebrew hearing this story. Not only can one sit on gods, but such gods can be rendered unclean if they are stained by Rachel's blood. The gods so crucial to Laban are reduced to sanitary towels, or at least a soft cushion on which to rest her body, now weakened by the loss of blood. By the way, I'll post both of these quotes on Faith Life because they are really, really incredible. But what's the picture? You shall have no other gods before me. God demands exclusivity in his worship. And again, regardless of the intention of Rachel, whatever it was in her heart, combination of all three, maybe she had some attachments to these gods. God in his graciousness and God in his mercy is communicating to Rachel, because we need to understand that Rachel has not had an encounter with God. And so God is communicating to her through these circumstances, by the way. And he's saying to her, you can't do that. These are unclean. So the question is kind of hanging for us. What did she do with those things? We don't know. What did she do? Did she keep them? Did she throw them into a river? Did she leave them behind? Did she bury them? Who knows? But that's just a little bit of what's going on in our reading today. I hope you'll take some time and kind of go through it. There's a lot more in our reading. I personally, because like I said, I'm going through some of this here on Sunday. I'm really looking forward to studying this out, taking some time tomorrow. And again, if you have any thoughts, if you have any questions, if there's something that I can pray with you about, please let me know. It would be an honor to do that with you. If you got any feedback on the video of anything that I can do different or any ideas, or also if there's anybody out there that likes to edit some things, hey, why don't you come on this way? Because I don't have a whole lot of time to be able to edit and stuff. I want to keep my goal ultimately on this is to set this up. It's just all sit down, press one button, and I'm ready to roll. But that's not that easy. So again, I leave you with that. Thank you for tuning in today, and we will see you on the next episode. Thank you for listening to Al Pastor with Brian Overturf. If you found value in this, please subscribe and get updates. Most places podcasts are available. We're right here on Anchor FM through Spotify, also on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon, and iHeartRadio. I hope you'll tune in for the next episode. Until then, we'll see you later.